Bad Boys from 1995. This is a film directed by Michael Bay, starring Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, and Téa Leoni. The IMDb plot summary: two hip detectives protect a witness to a murder while investigating a case of stolen heroin from the evidence storage room from their police precinct. So I'll talk a little bit about why this movie, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts on the film. We can dive more into the film. So this movie, to me, like, Miami was a place actually I never thought really much about growing up. And I saw this movie for the first time in high school on VHS and immediately just made this city seem cool to me, and how it was depicted, and Michael Bay's photography, the hues, the warm hues that it had, the sunsets, the amazing skyline and how it's shot. I'm a big fan of city skylines. So the skyline looks cool. I'm like, I got to go there because I want to see that in person. And I never really would thought of Miami skylines, honestly, at all until I saw this movie, and that there's that cool, like, blue and white striped building that's kind of sticking up there. So that was sort of the genesis of my love for, or desire, I should say, of wanting to go to Miami, solely based on this film. And I can get into that more and more into the film, but I'm curious about your, well, first of all, have you been to Miami? And second of all, have you seen the film?
No and no.
Oh.
So yeah, no, I was wondering about that. Like, what made you want to go to Miami after watching this movie? Because my impression was that you don't really see much of the city except for the skyline. You're mostly inside. But now that you say the skyline, yeah, that was pretty amazing. The movie opens with that, and amazing sunsets kind of sprinkled all across the movie. So yeah, it was really fun to see. And over the years, yeah, Miami is definitely on that list of places that I want to visit in the US for sure, because of it has a very sort of distinct party culture, but I wouldn't equate it to, other typical beachy party places either. It just feels really unique. And I guess to that point, not that I know what a Miami attitude would look like, but there's something about Will Smith's character and his flashiness, but also, there's like a smirkiness, but he's also a good-hearted guy overall. Like, I sort of think of that vibe when I think of Miami, right or wrong. So they captured that. Obviously, it's hard to distill, a place's vibe to like a single sentence, because there are all sorts of people everywhere, of course. But yeah, there's sort of this effortless coolness with a lot of exaggeration. I know I said two opposite words in one sentence, but maybe that's what Miami is in my head.
Yeah, it always seemed, again, if folks are listening from Miami or been to Miami, maybe we're totally wrong. We're just judging what we've seen in films or documentaries about. But Miami, especially after seeing this movie as a high school student, it seemed kind of big to me. And just there's a lot of, they show the nightclubs, and there's like a fun vibe there. There's a lot of fast cars. There's some car chasing. Will Smith's got that nice Porsche. There is that attitude that he has. There's the nice suits that he wears. All these sort of things definitely do, to me, capture what I think Miami's like and make me want to go there. The architecture too is really cool. There's a lot of, Michael Bay, again, is just a very visual filmmaker who was one of my favorite directors back in the early days of his career, though now with Transformers, he's kind of gone off my list. But the way that he shoots even just cars or buildings, or a lot of low angle shots of some of these interior, even apartments, but they're very cool and designed. And that to me, just always like, whoa, Miami's like really on the cutting edge of fashion and coolness and all these things that to me just made me like really want to go there. Even from that opening shot, which there's a Miami sign that sort of looks like the Hollywood sign with a plane flying over it, doesn't exist. They made that up for the movie, unfortunately. But yeah, that's not a real thing. But I'm like, whoa, that looks so cool. Like, I want to go to this sign, but then realized, unfortunately, that it did not exist. To get into the movie a little bit too, I think it's actually tying into the city a bit as well. Like, this movie, or most cop movies, I feel like, are New York, LA. Miami's not usually a place you find a buddy cop movie to be set. And I think they really take advantage of that fact in this film, not only with the locations, but I think too with the lead actors and the tone of it. Being in Miami just makes this feel different and cool for some reason, that if it was set in LA or New York, it just would feel a little bit more, I don't know, by the books and kind of substandard. Because the actual premise of buddy cops and the little twist they have in this film too, where Martin Lawrence has to impersonate Will Smith's character for the witness, that's something we've seen in a ton of different movies. Actually, this movie was originally supposed to be set in New York until they brought on Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. It was supposed to be Dana Carvey and John Lovitz. Very different film would have been. But they both add a lot of spice and verve to this film. And I just I still love it to this day. I think it's hilarious. I think the action is great. And it's really incredible to see these two stars who at the time were both just TV stars. Like Will hadn't been in a movie this big before. He'd been in like one movie, I think a small drama. Martin Lawrence hadn't exploded yet. Michael Bay, this was his first film. And you can feel there's like this energy of everyone involved in this movie is about to own the Hollywood for the next 5-6 years, which happened with all three of them. But this was just when they were peaking. And there's that energy to this film that I associate just with Miami now too, of like, oh, this is like a place that's so vibrant and energetic just because of what Michael and Will and Martin Lawrence do in this.
That's awesome. Actually, that context is very helpful because it's, we find this on this podcast all the time. It all comes down to when you watch a movie, and I'd never seen this movie before. So watching it now, it sort of feels like, yeah, this is kind of a template that's been used so many times. I do agree that the Miami thing sort of separates it. In fact, I wanted more of that, I wanted to see the city. I wanted to see local people. I wanted to be outside because I associate Miami with the beach and, people eating out and kind of these open air restaurants and such. Like I wanted to see more of that life. That said, the attitude is captured. But the thing about these people exploding, that's a really good point. I didn't think about that actually when I was watching the movie because I just take Will Smith, minus slap stuff as a bona fide movie star.
Right.
Versus hearing that was kind of a jumping off point and then remembering how amazing he is, how charismatic he is, all of that, like that's pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, I still watch this movie maybe like once a year, but his whole like persona just, I mean, it's Will Smith, right? I mean, what more can you say? Again, slap aside.
It sounds, this is how we understand Will Smith.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this was created for this movie or he just lent his own persona to the movie. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't really actually watch the TV show he was on, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I never saw that as a kid, but I imagine he a similar kind of attitude. But it just seemed like everyone in this movie, including Michael Bay too, was like in it to prove that they like were the guys that could do something like this. Because no one who was involved in this film, or I shouldn't say no one, but the two main actors and Michael Bay had never made a movie on this scale, or Michael had never made a movie at all. And again, he's someone who I loved him back in the day. We already covered The Rock on this podcast, one of my favorite movies of all time. And this one too, just he has this great like Michael Bay eye of the camera's always moving. It's pulling in, it's pulling out, it's swinging around. There's that famous Bad Boy shot where the two of them kind of stand up and the camera is like 360 revolving around them. That's like associated with this film now. And that kind of stuff to me just feels still new to this day and kind of electric. And which is why I was so into Michael Bay for the first, I guess, 2 films of his career. And then very quickly, I was like, I don't know about this stuff anymore. But in the beginning, it seemed, like some kind of energy and like he's about to be a star that's born. And again, I just now associate that with Miami. And that's why I want to go there. I want to go there.
That's awesome.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.